dun, dun, dun. Shoot.
And with that, folks, we're opening the show.
Unlocking secrets of the universe.
Welcome to the Last Awakening podcast.
Podcast.
I can tell you one thing. I never thought when we started this journey it would be about what we're going to be talking about tonight.
I would concur.
That's right, folks. Tonight we have a very special episode called Reptilians, the Sky Gods, and the Abyss.
Well. Who would have thunk it?
Yeah, I did not think that I would be talking about these things being on this side of things. But you can't talk about these things. You can't talk about truth and not expose who these things are. The things that I'm talking about is every god that's ever came to this planet and said he was God. Every one of them.
Yeah.
And I say that because they did not come from heaven. Not a one of them ever came from heaven.
As in the kingdom within you. Yeah.
Exactly, because heaven is not above you. It's inside of you.
They came from the abyss, which we'll get to.
Yes.
Is what you see when
that
you
is
look
the
up.
endless void of darkness where you are cast into when you don't find the kingdom inside of you.
Real quick,
Just
Josh,
like all
before
those who were taken up and thrown into the abyss. Oh, we're going to get into that too.
Yeah, and much more.
There were many in the Bible, and there were many in ancient civilizations too.
Yeah. But before we get into all the juicy stuff, we real quick make the announcement about tomorrow's video. Monday, March the 2nd, will be...
Because I'm working March 3rd, just to let everybody know. I'm working March 3rd, so we're doing the 1-year anniversary to being in the kingdom a day early.
Yep. And since we had a leap year, it kind of works out. So tomorrow night at 7 p.m. U.S. Central Time Zone, we're going to do a live question and answer stream. So we would love it if everybody would show up at 7 p.m. U.S. Central Time with some questions, and we'll have a little chat back and forth. And
we're just going to let you know too. If we don't have an answer, or if we haven't thought about these things, we're going to tell you. Look, I ain't got a clue.
Yeah, because we're not some of these people that profess to know all.
It might be something that we actually write down and look into. So
sure, because we only know the truths the fathers give us for us
in this particular time. So
yeah, so if it's something that the Father hadn't spoke to us about and we haven't studied into, we're not going to pretend to blow smoke up your ear. If we don't have an answer, we just don't have an answer, and maybe we'll seek out the answer that's already within us about it. And
right,
again,
I mean, it's just like the stuff we're talking about tonight. Like I never thought we would get into this because, I didn't ever believe half this stuff was in the Bible, even though for the last 7-8 years. Even more than that, 10. I think it's been 10 years. I've been talking about Leviathan. I've been talking about the Abyss. It's been one of the things I've been looking into for a very long time. Probably, and I'm going to say it's been longer than anybody else has ever talked about this stuff. Because nobody used to talk about none of this crap when I was talking about it. Everybody thought I was nuts. Well, that has nothing to do with anything. No, it has everything to do with absolutely everything.
especially
because
when you
it
get to
changes your whole
talking-
perspective on what actually is going on.
especially the part about the abyss. It's very enlightening when you see through the different perception when you come into the kingdom.
Yeah.
So, excuse me.
Yeah, stop
So yeah,
coughing.
this is interesting to say the least, and like Josh said, something that I didn't prescribe to even when I was in conspiracy and stuff like that. I wasn't into much of this talk. So
Nah,
have-
John's eyes would just glaze over and be like, "Oh,
yeah,
Josh
here
is down
Josh
one of
goes
those
again."
rabbit holes again."
Even when I got into conspiracy, I'd have to say that this was a subject when Josh would bring up, or other channels that we had listened to, or
I'm gonna tell you
I was
right
just
now.
like, eh.
I'm gonna tell you right now, Johnny, even in the kingdom, was like, "I don't know about that. I don't know."
Well, you gotta you gotta come across something that sparks something in your memory in the kingdom.
Oh, I know.
And like,
I know.
okay, yeah, it's a different thing. And I don't think that the perception that we have about it now goes along with a lot of the narrative and the conspiracy theory either. Really, they come at it with a different angle.
I don't know. I don't know. It depends on what they're. Are you talking about when it starts getting into like the elites and different stuff like that?
The elites being lizard people and just stuff like that. Yeah. Like,
Well, who is their father?
Like, yeah, true. Yeah.
If their father's Yahweh, they're the son of their father, right?
This is
and
true.
they all the elites are all about the money and power of this world, this kingdom, not the true one. They're trying to have an eternal life here within this realm.
Yeah, this realm that doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
But a vapor. So, we're going to get started. You got some scriptures, Mr. Joshua?
Yeah, we got a whole bunch of them.
Fasten your seatbelts, people. It's about to go down.
Okay, so when we're talking about the abyss, we're going right to Genesis 1:2. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Well, let me tell you something, people. That is not the Father. Jesus' Spirit is hovering over these waters.
No.
So we're going into the Hebrew here. And here is of the deep. Oh, it means deep, sea or abyss. Sea is the modern translation of this word because no one believes the abyss even exists in this time period we live in anymore. And you stare at it every night when you look into what you call heaven or the sky.
Yeah.
That's the dark abyss. That's it.
It's got no end to it. Yep.
What words does it mean in a strong exhaustive concordance? Confusion. A lot of confusing things up there in that sky, ain't there? That abyss.
A lot of mysteries and wonders, yeah.
Of all life here. Empty place. Without form. Nothing.
I'm talking about empty place. There's so much empty space, right?
Yep.
People think when you mention the abyss, it's talking about in the sea. Well, the deepest abyss that there is.
There's life at the bottom of the sea.
There's life there, and there's a bottom, right?
Now the world keeps on trying to convince you there's life out in space.
Yeah.
But that's the abyss. And there are things that do come out of that. But we're going to get into why that is. Because I don't have it here. I forgot to take a picture of it. But in the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, the Strongest Strongs, it actually talks about the abyss being a magical a magical form, whatever that's supposed to be. It talks about it being magic and being able to have powers.
Like a witch's cauldron kind of thing we were talking about.
Yep. Like we were talking the other day, the witch's cauldron is it's what? It's black. There's water. It's magical. There are things that they put into it to get things out of it. That's what it's symbolizing.
Kind of like staring into a crystal ball we were talking about the other day.
Yes, and for some of you people who believe in flat Earth, the crystalline ceiling that permeates somewhere beyond the heavens of what we call the abyss.
Yeah.
That too.
A lot of magic comes out of all these things that people stare into.
Because the thing is that this realm we live in, what you believe can manifest. And when on your own, it's hard to manifest anything. It takes more than one person. This is why it talks about where any two agree, right?
Yeah.
Of touching any one thing, it'll be done, right?
Of the Father in where? In you.
Yeah, right. But because of the system that we're in, this whatever this is, things can be manifested if people believe.
Yep.
And this is why in all ancient writings, from the Greeks, the Romans, the Samaritans, the Egyptians, all of them.
Hindus, Buddhists, even.
Yes, every ancient religion.
Yep.
The Mayans, they believe this stuff.
No, Native Americans.
About you ascending to the stars.
Yep.
Your name, your character, your picture being among the stars of heaven.
Yep.
And that's not where heaven is. Heaven's inside of you. They've been convinced by these gods, these demiurges, that what they're looking at is heaven. It's not. It's the abyss. And they want to be part of that abyss.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, I don't ever want to be a part of the abyss. I don't want my name to be written in that heaven abyss.
No.
Because when you think externally, you're thinking backwards.
Yep.
You think heaven's what you stare out every day. It's not. Now we're going to get into some other writings here. But before we do that, I just looked up some people who ascended into heaven. And we can see here, Hercules ascended into the abyss, heaven.
Yep.
Not the heaven within him. Not the true heaven. Because the real heaven isn't even part of this realm.
No.
Adapa from the Samaritans ascended into heaven. This was the son of Enki. And do you want to talk about the two? Are we going to go that far with this one?
You can mention who they are real quick, just as a reference for who we're talking about. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so you had two major gods that ascended out of heaven. There was more than that, but the two main ones that's been fighting this whole time. It's the two that have been fighting throughout history forever. Yahweh and the serpent. Well, they're both serpents, to be honest with you. One's a hydrid. He has more than one face. He's able to he either has multiple faces or he's able to change into multiple faces.
That's why people couldn't look upon his face like Moses.
Because then they would know who he was.
Yeah.
And that he wasn't who he said he was. because they knew all the stories of Enki and Enlil.
Yep.
Because that's what they were taught over when they were in Babylonia. That's what they were taught over in Egypt. The same stories.
Mm-hmm.
This is the common knowledge of the day. Everybody knew this crap.
Yeah, the stuff in the Old Testament, especially like the first 5 books, was Moses supposedly wrote. He had the knowledge of all these other religions. There's a lot of the same stories in those 5 books.
And every
Moses
other culture
wrote.
in history.
Mm-hmm. Just different names being changed, stuff like that.
And this is why the Jews were called, Israel. Is Amin Ra El? Is Enki and Enlil the same?
Yep.
Ultimately, yes, because they're neither one the sun. They're neither one who you are inside. And they both want you to worship them, whether it's Yahweh or the serpent. And neither one of those are God. Neither one of them are your father, the one inside of you.
Well, Enki and Enlil, they come from like the Anunnaki, correct?
Yes, their father was Anu, which is where we get the word Anunnaki.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not saying we subscribe to these things, but we're telling you what the Bible is actually talking about. It's talking about, the Old Testament is talking about these 2 battling entities. One called Yahweh, who Israel called God, and the other one that Yahweh called the serpent.
Yeah.
Neither one of them are God.
And where Yahweh and the serpent was in the New Testament, if this is Enki and Enlil, which their father was Anu, like you have the Most High God, you have Yahweh, his portion, which was Israel.
Yeah, that was actually his Anu. Anu gave him
exactly
his portion. His father did.
The Most High, which is called Elyon in the Bible. If you look up the name of the Most High, it could be Anu, right?
It goes to Allah, which Allah was the father of the 72 people, the 72 gods who had dominion over the earth, which is the same story in Sumerian, which is Anu and his sons.
Yep.
And basically what happens is these 2 kill all the other sons and are now fighting over the throneship of their father.
Yeah.
And this is the same story you have in the Bible if you decide to read the Bible the way it was written. They knew all these stories, every one of them.
Because of religion and Christianity and Islam coming from Judaism, right? All the sons of Abraham.
Well, they had originally Islam had all these stories, but then their stories were rewritten with the Quran, where there's only Allah, there's only Yahweh.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Because that's who's calling himself Yahweh in the Quran.
Well, that's what I'm going to say, that Yahweh seems to have won over the serpent because everybody
for a time
Yahweh.
being.
Yeah, everybody serves Yahweh right now.
Well, no, not necessarily. You do have people who believe they're worshiping the serpent god, which would be Buddhists, and the Dragon King of
I'm saying if you look
China.
If you look at the majority, though, you got the Jews, the Christians, these large portion of the world that identifies Yahweh as their God. So
there's a large portion of them.
Yeah.
There's probably most of the people in the world, and then there's like a 25% not.
Yeah, and then there's this little smidgen of a little dash of us sprinkled out that knows the Father's.
None of these deities.
Yeah, the spirit within you is the Father. Yes.
You have Enoch who ascended into heaven, right? He's taken up in the whirlwind or a chariot. I don't remember which one he was.
I think he was the whirlwind because the chariot, I believe, was Elijah.
Yeah, he went to the abyss, people. That's not some place you want to go.
Yep.
Elijah, he was taken up to the abyss.
The
By
chariot,
Yahweh,
which is a millstone.
which is a millstone. Which
Yeah.
Jesus said, it'd be better, if you mess with one of these little ones, it'd be better if you was tied a
Had a
chariot
millstone
around
tied
your
around
neck
you.
or a millstone and thrown into abyss. Just like Elijah. They would have known that back then. They would have known that he was talking about Elijah going into the abyss.
Yeah.
But now we don't, because no one's ever studied any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not even the only ones. You have Perseus. He went to the heaven. He ascended to the heavens.
Yeah, Greeks. Yeah.
Every ancient god came from the heavens. We talked about Quetzalcoatl down in the Incan god. The Indians' gods, theirs are from the abyss, the heavens, what they call the heavens.
Yep.
But they're not from this heaven. This one in here. The true heaven within you.
That's right.
They're all from the abyss. And anything that comes from the abyss and you worship it, you're worshiping a false god. Plain and simple. I don't care who it is. And we're going to get into that here pretty quickly on who that is coming. Because all the Enki and Enlil, the two brothers, are still fighting. And they're still fighting in the book of Revelations.
Yeah, they are.
Because now one of them's hit himself in something else, not the true form that he took that he was before.
Yeah.
So, in Psalms 71:20, this is David speaking here. In you, O Lord, I have taken refuge. This is what this part of the Bible is talking about. Though you have made me see troubles, many and bitter. Wow, what a life, Yahweh. That's more abundant, ain't it? You will restore my life again. You will restore my life again. From the depths of the earth, you will again bring me up. The depths here are the abyss of the earth. The abyss of the earth are what you look at every night. Again, David's telling you that Yahweh's going to bring him back from the abyss.
Yeah.
Now, why did he tell you that? Well, in 2 Samuel 7:13, he is the one who will build a house for my name. David built him a house for Yahweh's name. And Yahweh says, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. This is why David believed he was coming back to rule in Jerusalem again. Because the throne of his was an eternal throne. His throne. Not through his line. No. His throne.
Yeah.
Him being the king. Why? 7:14. For I am his father, and he will be my son. Who's the son of Yahweh? I'll wait. Who's the son of God, according to Yahweh? Not Jesus. Not the man who was here 2,000 years ago. David's his son.
Said he will be David. Now, why does it say that his only begotten son in John was Jesus?
You got me.
It's interesting.
Why would David be his son? Because he was the man after his own character, the one that would come again in his own name, like Moses prophesied. Not Jesus, David.
Yep. The one that listened and went and killed people left and right when Yahweh said to.
A man after his own heart.
His own murderous, vengeful heart. Yeah. Yeah. Didn't see Jesus doing that, did you?
No.
It's interesting.
Psalms 107:26. They mounted up to the heavens and went down to the depths. Imagine that. They went up to the heavens and went down to the depths. In their peril, their courage melted away. Again, they went to the heavens and went down into the abyss, which is in the heavens. It is the heavens.
Yeah.
Ah, man. Then we have Psalms 148:7. Praise the Lord from the earth, you great sea creatures and all the ocean depths. Well, let's go see what that says in Hebrew. Praise you, Yahweh, from the earth. Great sea creatures. Oh, serpents, dragons, sea monsters.
Wow. Imagine that one. Serpents and dragons.
And all the depths. What's all the depths? Oh, the abyss. So the word they're saying from can also mean above.
Yeah.
So, above the earth, sea creatures and all the abyss. In other words, the dragons from the abyss praise you, Yahweh, above the earth. All the dragons, serpents that are in the abyss worship Yahweh. It does not mean from the earth. It means above the earth because you stare at the heavens all day. And that's where the giant sea creatures come from, like we keep saying. Why is it every time there's a god that comes from heaven, it's a serpent or a sea monster?
Well, you even see it on movies and stuff.
Yeah, every time.
All the aliens that come and the gods and aliens that
Reptilians.
Come from, look like reptiles. Yeah.
You think they just put that in there just because?
Yeah. Nothing to see here, people.
Nothing to see here. Let's move along, folks. Let's move along.
Yeah.
Okay, so once we got into this, then we started getting into things about Jesus. Because Jesus supposedly also ascended to heaven. Now, why would Jesus come back from the dead in the physical body and then ascend into the abyss? His father's not in the abyss. Never was.
It's within him. Yeah.
His father was within him. In the kingdom of heaven within him. Not in the sky. The abyss.
Yep.
And the reason why is because in Romans, Paul tells you that Yahweh put a new spirit in him.
Yes, he did. It's interesting,
and
you know.
If the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies because of his spirit who lives in you.
But only if the same spirit that raised Jesus from the dead.
What raised that body from the dead? Because Jesus went back to be with his Father who was in heaven. That's the heaven in here. He went to a whole different realm. He didn't go to the sky abyss.
No.
Now, the Bible's going to tell you that after he was raised by this other spirit.
Yeah, from the grave. Yeah.
Let me tell you whose spirit that was. This is probably David's spirit put back into a new body.
Well, Elijah came back in John the Baptist, didn't
Yes, he did.
he? Mm-hmm. So could David come back as the risen Jesus?
And there's some dispute on whether or not Jesus was actually a descendant of David. Well, now there's no question if he has the spirit of David inside of him, just like Elijah was John the Baptist.
Yeah, from the
He
same
also has
house
the
of
right
David.
to the throne that's eternally his. And he came back from the abyss because that's where the spirit of David went, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Yahweh put him inside of that body. Why? Because David was his son, not Jesus.
No. And Jesus could have, but Jesus, after he came up from being baptized, realized truth and where the actual kingdom was and who he was, who his father was within him, kind of messed up Yahweh's plan, didn't it?
Yep.
Same as when you come into the kingdom, when me and Josh came into the kingdom, all the plans that Yahweh had for our lives
Were destroyed.
ceased to be real. And he don't like us now. He doesn't like
But to
us.
continue Yahweh's plan of having an eternal kingdom here on earth for people to worship,
Yep.
he had to rectify the situation. And since
So
he
he
had
brought
already
back-
gave David the
Yeah.
eternal throne of Jerusalem,
And since he was a man after Yahweh's own
own
heart,
heart, own character, what does Jesus come back as? The conquering Yahweh king like David was.
mm-hmm, to lay the smackdown on all the non-believers.
And we told you there was two, right?
Mm-hmm.
The serpent's coming back too. This is going to be the one that they call the Antichrist in their
Yep.
book. The serpent. Neither one of these two entities are the Father. Neither one of them was who Jesus was worshiping.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're looking to
For
pick
something
between,
external,
if you're
it's
looking
a
to
losing game.
yeah, if you're looking to pick between the returning Jesus and the Antichrist in Revelation, you're not going to be.
Jesus
you're
said
not
he
gonna be
judges no
picking-
one, but the one who comes again in Revelation judges people, doesn't he?
Yes, he
So
does.
that means he has to be something else. He has to be Yahweh's son
Mm-hmm.
to claim that throne. He has to be David, not Jesus.
This is good stuff. I'm telling you, it's good stuff.
So then we get in Luke 24:26 saying that Jesus I'm just going to read it. It's 24:25 first. And he said to them, "How foolish are you, and how slow to believe that and slow to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Did not the Messiah have to suffer all things to enter his glory? No.
No. Josh, did you have to suffer to enter the kingdom?
No, I didn't have to suffer at all. I just had to enter.
Yeah. Just had to have the change of mind, the change of perception.
And then boom, you're in.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
So I don't know why all of a sudden in Luke, in the book of John, that when Jesus, when they're talking about Jesus being resurrected, all of a sudden the whole story changes. And now like Jesus is telling them, you had to believe all the prophets and Moses and the Psalms.
And the Psalms, yeah. When he talked, he talked about believing the Father.
Right?
Right.
And then he says,
Believe the Father,
then in
believe
27 it says, And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, and he explained to them what was said in all the scriptures concerning himself.
It's interesting
Well,
because
Jesus said that all the scriptures were lies, that they rewrote all of them.
Every time he talked to a Pharisee, he said, Yahweh says this, the scriptures say this, but I say.
But I say this, right?
Yeah.
So now, after he's resurrected,
and...
right? After he's resurrected, now he's going back and showing people this resurrected character that's in a new, that's in this body of this guy, that's a different soul or different spirit than what was there. It's the soul of David that returned, the son of Yahweh, is now going and showing them every place in the Old Testament, right? The scriptures, the Old Testament, the new scriptures weren't written, and showing them everything that concerned him, proving who he said he was.
Yeah.
And this also is why they accept him in the end.
Yep. And then, of course, Paul jumps on this, and now this is the full truth. Nothing Jesus said
was the truth. Now it's this other nonsense, and him being Yahweh's son and everything. Man, they've twisted so much crap, it's unreal.
I would really watch anything that was written after Jesus.
I'm going to tell you right now, don't listen to anything in the damn book. We're just showing you in the book that the truths that were revealed to us from within us.
Yeah.
I didn't go search tonight in the Bible to tell you these things, what we're showing you. Didn't do it. The Father told me these things.
And then you go and you find, well, here's some confirmation. We can show it right here.
After he was telling me things, he said, go look up the word abyss. So I went up to work the word abyss, and then bam, I got all these scriptures. Luke 24:44. He said to them, this is what I have said to you while I was still with you. Everything must be fulfilled that is written about me in the law of Moses, the prophets, and the Psalms. Everything was fulfilled on the cross, right?
Yeah.
It is finished. Now he comes back and is saying, no, all this stuff has to be done again.
Yeah.
But like we said, this is not Jesus, the one that was in the kingdom, who went back to be with his Father in the realm of where his Father is.
The realm of love.
This is the other entity that was put into that body.
Yeah.
Which was, I believe it was David, according to the scriptures. That was Yahweh's son. This is the one that was prophesied by Moses.
Put it this way. You got all these Christians that have been around for thousands of years, right? Let's say thousands of years. Jesus told the disciples, greater things that you'll do than you even see me do. How many preachers have you seen dying, coming back, and walking around for 40 years? Well, I ain't seen it. So you got this other entity coming around, supposed to be Jesus, teaching all this stuff, backtracking, saying, oh, well, pay attention to all these old scriptures in the Old Testament. Even though I just told you when I was walking around here in the flesh, not to pay attention to any of it, contradicting all of it, telling you it's obviously not true and not from my Father. But now he's walking around forever saying the exact opposite.
The exact opposite of what he was preaching the whole time he was here.
Yeah, and agreeing with the narrative that Paul's about ready to teach you in the rest of the New Testament.
Bob Dan said, if Yahweh is the father, who is the mother? Well, Yahweh isn't the father. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
The father of you is your own spirit within you that was in the beginning, before the beginning, actually.
And in the narrative, the church narrative, that believe Yahweh is the father, they don't believe there's a mother.
Exactly. They believe it's three men.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and all masculine. Yeah.
Which is part of the air, too, because there is a mother.
Yep, there is.
Her name's Sophia in wisdom.
Yep.
And that wisdom is the revelations that return to you when you enter the kingdom. It's the
your
truth.
understanding. Yep.
And that's the path you have to follow back to get to the kingdom, is that way.
Who asked the question, Josh? I didn't hear you.
Bob Dan.
Bob Dan. Okay. Well, welcome, Bob Dan.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us.
Jagger Bob said hello. Leave a like on the stream, guys. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. Okay, so now we're going over in John. This is John 2017.
Real quick, guys, listening in chat, make sure to come tomorrow at 7 p.m. U.S. Central Time.
Yeah, we're having a live Q&A.
Yeah, question and answer session. So bring your questions, and we'll do our best.
If I can get a phone set up for y'all to call, we'll have people call in and on my mixer board, and we can discuss things too.
That would be exciting. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Love to do more of those too.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus said, this is John 20:17. Jesus said, "Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet ascended to my Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God." This is an absolute lie. Jesus was already in the kingdom. He had already ascended into his own heaven and sat down as king and ruler of his own body.
Yeah, when you got baptized.
And I don't know if these people seem like, some of these people seem like they're new who are in the chat.
Yeah.
We have videos talking about these things that we're bringing up about him being in his own kingdom in past videos. So Jesus had already ascended into heaven. This character now, the one that's resurrected, David's ascending back to his Father. He is ascending back to his God, Yahweh. He's going back to the abyss.
Yep.
And this is the one that returns in Revelations. This is not Jesus, the guy who was here. He had already died. And when we're talking about him dying, we're not talking about him on the cross. Your spirit, your soul has to die. That's death in this realm. When your soul dies, you enter the kingdom of heaven, and you are reborn, the spirit inside of you that was when you were a kid.
Yep.
Jesus never told you to go back to when you was a kid if your kid was born a sinner.
That's right.
You never was born a sinner. You were born divine, free, and actually already in heaven when you came to this place.
And you were pure love.
And you were pure love. Look at every kid, they're pure love. But the church and most religions want you to believe that our kids are the monsters and that they need to be saved. This is nonsense.
Yep.
Yep. So when Jesus said, when the character Jesus is saying he's ascended, this is the new spirit that was put into that body, saying he's going back to his Father, which the spirit that was put into him, I believe, was David, like I said. Over in Acts 1:9, after this, he said, he was taken up before their eyes, and the cloud hid him from their sight. Verse 10, they were looking intently up to the sky, which is the abyss. They're looking at the abyss. Jesus, this character Jesus is now going into the abyss. Why would he go there? Because his Father's not there, but whatever. Was in the sky where he was going, and suddenly 2 men dressed in white stood beside them. Men of Galilee, they said, why do you stand looking into the sky? The same Jesus, this same Jesus. Notice that. They say, this same Jesus.
Yep.
Why would you say that? Why wouldn't they just say Jesus? No. Because it's specific to this one.
Yep.
This one with this new soul put into him. This one who has been taken into heaven will come back in the same way you see him go into heaven. So the way he went, he's going to come back that same way. This is him when he's talking about, this was Revelations where they're talking about Jesus coming back in the clouds.
Yep.
It's this Jesus.
Like you seen him go.
It's not the one that was already in the kingdom. It's the one with the new spirit put in him from Yahweh. Yahweh's son, the one comes back in his like manner. Not the Father who was mercy, not sacrifice.
Yep.
John 3:13. No one has ever gone into heaven except the one who came from heaven, the Son of Man. Well, what does that actually say in Greek? And no one has gone up into the heaven, if not the one out of heaven coming down, the Son of Man, who is in the heaven. The church will tell you this is Jesus coming and going in the clouds, going in and out of the abyss, what is actually the abyss.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we all know there's only been ones that came from there, right? Who are all the ones that came from the abyss? Because this is the heaven they're talking about here. Now, we're going to show you what this spiritually means too, but all the gods, all the fake gods that ever came to this earth came from the abyss, which they call heaven. And no one has ever went into heaven except the one who came from heaven. Right? The Son of Man, right?
Right.
And then John tells you, just as Moses lifted up the snake, now why all of a sudden would they be talking about heaven and going in and out of heaven, and now they're talking about snakes in the wilderness? Because the serpents, the sea monsters, the reptilians all came from heaven. The abyss, though. This is where the external heaven is actually the abyss, and they're not talking about the physical heaven within you. So just as Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness, the Son of Man must be lifted up. Well, I can tell you right now, I don't believe Jesus ever said this to Nicodemus.
No, I don't either.
Because Jesus was already in the kingdom.
Yeah, he
that anyone who believes may have eternal. Anyone who believes may have eternal life in him. Now I'm going to show you what this actually means. You are the only one within yourself that came from heaven when you was living in love and descended to the earth, which is this physical body, and started living out of what is called a soul. You're the only one that can then return back to your own heaven within you.
Yep.
You can't ascend into Jesus' heaven.
Mm-mm.
Can't happen. The only one who came from heaven can return to heaven. If you're someone who was actually has heaven within them, you can return to that heaven within you. The same way you came down from it, you can go back.
We all have the kingdom within us. Jesus said the kingdom is within you. It's with each one of us. Heaven is scattered out across all over the world in each and every person that's been born.
Yes, but there are things that aren't born.
Choose. True. True.
Those things come from the abyss.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this verse means.
Mm-hmm.
Not talking about the physical heaven above you. But they sure made it turned into that, didn't they? Saying Jesus had to be lifted up as the snake on the serpent. You got to worship the snake on the serpent. No.
It's just ridiculous, the fact that Moses would use a serpent to hold up and people to look at it and be healed and stuff. Like, it's
actually the double serpents.
Yeah.
It's Yahweh and the serpent. The adversary, his adversary.
Godliel. Yeah.
It's the two brothers. They're intertwining serpents.
Yep.
Fighting still.
It's just
over
interesting.
souls of this realm.
Even if you look at that story, the church will teach you that the most evil thing in existence started out in the garden as the serpent. And then God, supposedly the father of Jesus, would tell Moses to hold snakes up. If you looked at it, you were healed.
Thanks, Jagger. And Chris something says, best show yet.
It's always the best show.
It's always the best show every time. Oh, yeah, I wanted to address something Chris was asking about. The video that we watched was from a guy named Derek Burrows. We don't know which video we watched.
No, we don't.
It's one of his 300 now, probably.
Yeah, we ended up just dead to the world for 3 days. Imagine that. And had no clue what was going on. And then all of a sudden come back to this.
Bob Dan said, is not Sodom in the Bible the prophecy? What do you mean?
You say Sodom?
Yeah, Sodom in the Bible, the prophecy. What do you mean by that?
Do you mean like as in relating to Sodom and Gomorrah, a prophetic word about Revelation?
I don't know. Wait and see if he comments back.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause, if you guys got any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments.
Yeah, we'll run through at the end, definitely.
Oh, well, that's the end of the scriptures I have, so.
Oh, yeah, I'll go ahead. Put everything in, guys. Appreciate you being in chat. Love to have people interacting. It's not our channel; it's everybody's channel.
No, Chris. It wasn't Kelly. No, it was Derek. Yeah. The video that we watched was from Derek. It was it was the first video we actually watched of his.
Yeah, very first one, and it's been a year now, and Derek Bros, his channel is called Global Witness.
Yeah.
It doesn't exactly talk about the same stuff anymore. Now it's more political and stuff about Israel, stuff like that. Noahide laws, etc.
Yeah.
Mostly political, unfortunately. So this is a good video. I enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, it's definitely for me, this is definitely one of the cooler ones because, I've always believed that the what people call today as myths were actually reality.
Yeah.
All the ancient gods and stuff, those things were real. These weren't not things that people weren't worshiping.
Yeah.
No, these things were real. These things that came out of the abyss.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not your ruler. They're not your God. They did not create you.
No. Just like Yahweh was put in place over Israel, you had the 72 nations all having a God over them. And not too long ago, people knew about these different gods, these different teachings, and it's only here, what?
Yeah, I like how all those things become myths, right? As soon as the Christian Bible's written, as soon as the Jews come on the scene, now everything prior to them and that is now all myth and lies.
Yep. And anything outside of Yahweh is an occult.
Chris, we don't, man, because it wasn't us that watched that video. It was the soul us that did, not the spirit us. We don't remember the video.
No, and we've actually attempted looking for the video, but you got to consider.
We can tell you what he was talking about. What he was talking about is what we tell you on this channel, that heaven's inside of you. And once we heard that, once we understood that heaven was inside of us, there's nothing outside of us, and we believed that because we knew it was coming from us to begin with.
It blew this reality up.
We died to this all this nonsense.
Yeah.
And yes, when you get closer to the kingdom, you sleep
Like a
ton.
Yeah.
This is the rest that you're given.
Did he just mention that again?
No, I remembered that from the question he asked the other day about, sleeping and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. When Josh read that to me, I just started laughing because people looking at you from the outside, like friends, relatives, stuff like that, they may look at you thinking you're depressed.
And here's the thing. You will know without a doubt when you're in the kingdom. You'll know it. There's no question. Like when we after the third day, when we woke up, we knew we was born again. We knew we was in the kingdom.
Yeah.
It's the first words that came out of our mouth.
you asked Miss Cindy that we've had on the channel a couple of times. We were on the phone with her when she woke up. Like literally, we got to experience it when it happened to her. And you can ask her right now; she knows where she's at now. She knows.
Yeah, it's not a question anymore.
No.
And here's the thing: like, don't focus on the end result. Just focus on
seeking the kingdom.
Seeking. It'll come when it does. Yep.
There's all kinds of, and you know what? There's a time of searching for it.
Yeah.
We had a lot of discontentment with the church narrative and what had preached to us our whole lives. And once we started seeing contradictions that Paul was making, opposite statements than Jesus had said, we started asking.
He said he's been sleeping about 14 to 16 hours for the last 3 days.
Dude,
been there, brother.
What, brother. Yeah. We know this. We actually question each other. Man, you sleeping a lot? Oh man,
like crazy. Like I can't even get up to do anything.
And it still happens occasionally.
Yeah.
I had a day last week. I got like 10 hours sleep. Josh got like, what'd you get? Like 12 and a half hours sleep,
Which isn't normal for me. Normal for me is maybe 5.
Yeah.
Every day. 5.
Yeah. And I have tons of days in a row that I'll get like 3 or 4 hours and I'm just beat the whole day. And then, you get into the word, you get into study, listening to videos, you're talking with, Josh will be talking to each other and other people, speaking truth from our Father. And then you just end up crashing. You just, your body just wants to sleep. I even have times where I'll get into like real deep spiritual talk with people that are needing truth and they're seeking truth, and where you're speaking from the love within you, and you feel them receiving the truth. You're making deposits, right? In these people, and afterwards I'll be so thirsty. So sometimes you need that sleep. Sometimes I'll be so thirsty I could drink almost a gallon of water in like the next hour and a half or so. It's just this flesh feels depleted after a while. But I wouldn't worry about it. I know my sisters asked me if I was depressed because I slept long hours and odd times of the day and night.
Yeah.
Like I don't work. These physical eyes of mine don't work right now, so I don't have to go to a job. So I would just sleep just random. Like it was weird. But it happens. It was exciting when you mentioned that in the comments. I was like, it's a good sign. You know what that is.
Well, we finally got John's dissertation for the night.
Hey, you talked the whole video, sir. Tell him in the comments, tell Josh, cut me off like 6 times. There you go. I was giving encouragement. Thank you.
No, but the kingdom will come in an hour and a day you do not know. That's what that's talking about. And like in a twinkling eye, it's going to happen.
Yeah, like a thief in the night. It's just going to steal you away.
Like you
Yeah.
We didn't even know we didn't know what was happening until it already happened.
Yeah.
But we knew it. We knew it then.
Yeah. And that's why we do these videos, is because we didn't even have anybody to listen to tell us what was going on. And you listen to Brother Kelly, True Good News. He had nobody. At least me and Josh had each other to talk to, you know?
Yeah, that's what he was just asking in the comments about getting our phone numbers.
Oh, sure. I ain't gonna put it on. I ain't gonna put it on live on here, but we'll get you. We'll get your number to you, and I'll talk to you whenever. I'm sure Josh will too, when he's not working.
John's the more social of the two.
I'm the social butterfly.
Even though it seems like I am. Trust me, I'm not. I am happy being in my closet of a house that I have by myself, never talking to anyone ever again.
The person that you hear when Josh is speaking on here, I can talk to him like this. He's open and very vocal and stuff when we talk. This is not the person Josh used to be. And even in the kingdom, yeah, he don't talk his face off.
No.
Yeah.
No, not unless I have something to talk about the kingdom about. That's it.
Yeah. He's stuck up. That's the problem. He's snobby.
No.
No, he's not. So was there any more questions, Mr. Joshua David?
No, that's it. I think we're going to close this one out because we're already at an hour. So it's a good time to go ahead and wrap everything up.
Yep. So again,
be a blessing, because I'm stealing that from John from now on.
I wasn't even going to say it.
I'm saying it for you.
No, just remember, 7 p.m. U.S. Central Time Zone tomorrow night.
Q&A.
1 year anniversary Q&A. That's right. Look forward to seeing you there, and tell friends, get some other people in here, especially if they don't know where the kingdom is yet.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. So,
with
do your Father's will, y'all.
We are the Last Awakening Warriors, Joshua David and Johnny Walker. Hopefully, we can have Kelly on tomorrow. We're going to try to see if we can get him on if he's available.
Yeah.
With that, we are out.
Unlocking secrets of the universe.
Welcome to the Last Awakening podcast.
Oh no, I think I've lost my mind. I think I've lost it all. Oh no, I think I've lost my mind. I think I've lost my
Thank you for coming out and hanging out with us in the comments. We love each and every one of you.
For sure.
See you tomorrow, Chris.